Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining in on time. So we are going to just give 2 minutes from the start time for more of your colleagues to join, but you're in the right place. This is the Guiding Theory of Change webinar, the second webinar for week 2 that was rescheduled to hold today. So thank you so much for joining. We have our presenter with us, and in a short while, we'll start. Welcome again. Please use the chat to also share where you're joining from, your name, so our presenter gets to see the audience we have with us today. We're going to give 1 additional minute before we start. You're very much welcome. Good to see all of you. Hi, Daniel Femi, welcome. Hi, Joseph, you're welcome. Joseph from Zambia. Hi, Ngwe from Cameroon. You're welcome. Hi, Precious. Hi, Caleb. You're all welcome. So we are 2 minutes past and we want to keep to time, so I'll just start now. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Success Eugene, and I'm the Leadership Skill Development Coordinator for WMI. It's nice to be here with you all for this second webinar for week 2. Thank you all for being understanding and kind to have this rescheduled to today. And I can't wait for us to get in to hear from our presenter. So I'm just going to give a short introduction of our presenter before he comes on board. But then before I do that, I want to still talk about the pitch competition. So preparations are ongoing to get the pitch registration live to you all. And once the registration is live, it will just be 2 weeks to register your intent to participate. And a major key to be eligible to participate in the pitch is to have a good attendance record. So if you have missed a webinar or 2 in the past, please attend to the emails asking you to respond to certain questions, and that would be fine, okay? So the pitch will be live and you register, and when you register, you are eligible to participate and submit your videos by November 30th. That being said, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for introducing yourself. Please keep introducing yourself as the presenter is looking through the chat, and he's really glad to have you all here. So our presenter for today for the Guiding Theory of Change is Mr. Solomon Kaiwa Mugambe. Solomon is a social worker, and he co-founded Wezecha Impact, a social enterprise enabling youth to engage in productive development. This, coupled with 10 years of experience working with both local and international agencies, having served in high-level positions in the field of skill development with Educate, USAID, Feed the Future, and as Ugandan Youth Advisor to Washington, DC, through the US mission in Uganda, has enabled him to gain in-depth understanding of both the challenges and opportunities facing youth, and enabling them to understand the challenges around them and taking initiative to solve them through starting social enterprises. With vast experience, Solomon currently serves as a board member and advisory committee member with institutions that include Como Learning Centers, and has served as a board member for the United Nations International Labour Organization, among others. As a leader of social change, he continues to learn about community and systematic challenges which have led him to co-found Little Dreamers Education Academy, working to transform and prepare children for successful futures, and Ushindi Education Initiative, working to enable students become global citizens through acquiring high-quality higher education opportunities. Solomon currently serves as a board member for this institution and is providing strategic guidance and support for growth and impact. He believes in the power of youth and the ability of young people to transform their communities and make the world a better place. It's such a pleasure to introduce you to the participants for this year, Solomon. Thank you for always, building to be part of the WMI Online Academy for the past 3 years. It's such a pleasure to have you today again. And that being said, I would hand it over to you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Success and Liz, and thank you so much for the very warm introduction. I kept on smiling and I was like, oh my God, but thank you so much, Success. And I want to say thank you so much to the WMI team for always inviting me to these engagements, and to the change makers. I'm really, really proud to say that, I mean, there is a generation that is coming up, that a generation of all of you, the change makers, that is yet going to transform the continent. So congratulations on whatever you're doing, but also thank you for taking the bold step into this journey of becoming change makers. I also want to congratulate WMI on all the achievements. I've been following a lot of successes happening. I'm really happy to learn that WMI has supported over 704 students. I mean, across 54 countries. That is incredible. So thank you so much for leading the change. And we believe that the 700 plus students that you've worked with are going to be the leaders of change across different communities. In this, I've seen some stories where some have become doctors, others are becoming like social entrepreneurs across different sectors. So again, congratulations to WMI. If I was a scholar for WMI, and I'm now talking to the change makers, I would just look through the stories that WMI already has and just work towards becoming the next big story as part of the storybook for WMI. So change makers, I want to encourage you to just work towards becoming the next big story with the WMI community. So thank you. I'm excited to be talking about something very interesting, and I've always talked about this and shared about this in the different engagements that we've had as part of my engagement with the scholars from the previous cohorts. And I'm really excited to be talking about this with all of you, the wonderful people on this engagement today. I would like to start by saying something very interesting. All of us, I believe, come from the African continent. And you will agree with me that as the African continent, our communities are faced with very many challenges. And with the challenges that we are faced with, for me, when I was a child, I mean, I grew up in a community where there were very many challenges ranging from domestic violence, limited access to health services, high school dropout rates, and many others. And as a child, I always thought that it was normal. I mean, a community always had to have those so many challenges. But at the age of 16, I came across my uncle, was a distant uncle. And when he came to visit us, he was highly respected at home, but also highly respected in the community. And I kept on asking myself, why is he highly respected? And when I engaged with him, he told me one thing. He told me I'm highly respected because I'm a problem solver. And for me, it dawned on me that, oh, so you can actually solve problems. I always thought it's only government that is always at the forefront of solving problems in communities. And he told me, no, you can also choose to start small, start with your community, start with your area, start with your home, and solve that problem. As you solve that problem, that change eventually spreads. And before you know it, the solutions have gone beyond your home, beyond your community, and they are filling, across a district, across a county, and you're becoming a change maker that way. And that for me was the major drive that got me to start thinking about the world with a different lens. And I must say that the reason as to why I've been able to start all these different initiatives, it comes from that day when I had this interaction where I was interacting with this man, and he was like, no, you can actually take lead in solving problems. You don't have to wait for government. So I'm really happy that this is the same spirit that World's Mountain Initiative is actually promoting across all the different change makers that I'm talking to today. I would like to let you know that your communities have a lot of hope in you. And that's why some of you, your parents, have even given up on some things to just make sure they support you and get where you are. So one of the things that keeps me going every time is the fact that there is this community that I'm accountable to and that I need to be able to serve. Yeah. So in that journey of trying to solve problems or to come up with solutions, there are critical pieces that you always have to understand as a change maker, and that's the theory of change. Because oftentimes we are talking about creating change, but how are you going to create that change? What steps are you going to take? And that is why I personally like to talk about this whole topic of the theory of change. So as change makers, yes, we have all these ideas, we have all these assumptions, we have all these solutions, we have all these dreams, but a critical piece that you always have to think about, or that you have to put in practice, that is going to help get you from the idea stage to actually a stage where you're successfully implementing, is you having a theory of change. And I said this in the last to the last group that I spoke to, that when people talk about the theory of change, some of you you've heard about this word from teachers, from educators, from professors. They make it sound so complex. But to the change maker here, I want you to know that this is not a complex thing. It's not rocket science. It's really what journey are you going to take to achieve the change that you want to see? And if we are to go into just the definition, and I'm not using like a scholarly definition, I'm using really a simple definition to just get all of us on the same page. When people talk a lot about theory of change, sometimes we think about this complex document, this complex write-up. Yes, it's a document, but beyond the document, it's really the causal relationship between inputs and inputs. This is what you need to fully execute your project, your initiative, your idea. And then if after defining what you need in terms of inputs, what you need to input, what are the things that you require to work on this idea, you have to think about the activities. So what are those activities or actions that I'm going to undertake to be able to achieve my big goal or my idea, or to work towards my idea? And as you think about the activities, you're also thinking, okay, when I do the activities, what are those outputs? What will come out of the activities that I do? If I'm talking about an activity of training 50 youth on social entrepreneurship or on about entrepreneurship, what outputs will come through? It means that at the end of the day, if your activity was to train 50 youth in entrepreneurship, then the output is 50 youth trained in entrepreneurship. So it's very simple. I mean, if the activity was to train and then the output is what came out of the training, it was the 50 youth trained. And when you think about outcomes, you're thinking, okay, why you're asking yourself the why question? Why did I train them? What is my end result? And you're saying you train them to acquire business skills so they can start businesses. So the outcome is for them maybe to start businesses. Okay, after the outputs, you're looking at outcomes. So 50 young people trained, and then maybe 30 new businesses started from the 50 young people that were trained. So it's really just looking at the relationship of those different parts into the journey of creating change. And here I like to also emphasize that the theory of change is just a roadmap to change. If you want to create change, what is that journey? Oftentimes we travel journeys. You've traveled from Abuja to Lagos, and you know that as you move that journey, you're actually going to be using this route from Abuja. You're taking this direction to this town, to the other town, until when you get to the final destination. So the theory of change, when you think about it, it's basically that. I would like to go ahead and share with you, additional information that is usually hidden within the theory of change and things you have to think about. You have to, first of all, ask yourself the who question. Which population are you targeting? For example, you want to work on issues around maternal health. Who are you targeting? You're targeting, young mothers, or are you targeting mothers in a certain community? What's that population? Who is your population? And then the where is very important. Where will your organization do its work? So are you going to do the work in, if you're in Uganda, in Kampala, are you going to do it in Wakiso? Are you going to do it in this region, maybe in the northern region? Where will your organization do its work from? It's important to just define that along the way. And the next critical question is the what. What are those specific outcomes that you want to achieve? So, like I earlier mentioned, that there are outcomes. Maybe you want people to create businesses or to create jobs. And so being able to clearly define those outcomes that you want to achieve will always help you at the end of the day to be able to have clarity around the change that you want to create. And if you're looking at this slide, you'll see that when you define the who, the where, and the what, then that points you to the intended impact that you want to create. And oftentimes when people talk about impact, it can also seem ambiguous, but this could be the same as your mission, your goal, your intended end that you want to achieve. So critical piece to the change makers on this call, you need to be able to define those things. And if once you define them, then you are able to actually clearly connect this with the theory of change. I'll share a quick story. In 2010, that's when I and my co-founder started Wezesha Impact. And now Wezesha Impact works to enable youth engaged in productive employment through building the skills of the young people in entrepreneurship and work readiness. And so in 2010, I and my co-founder sat down and really learned about the challenges of youth unemployment in Uganda, where we have, 83% of the unemployed are youth, and there are huge school dropout rates in Uganda. I'll tell you that only 4% of the young people in Uganda make it past secondary school through university. So I'm lucky to have been one of the 4%. So many will drop out. And because of that high dropout rates, it's also another reason why there's huge youth unemployment. Because if they don't get these final certifications, then sometimes it's very hard to even secure employment, which really goes on and on and on, and then leads to unemployment. So I and my co-founder decided that we are going to address the issue of youth unemployment. So basically improve youth livelihoods by ensuring that young people are able to create their own businesses or find jobs. So when we decided to do that, we went ahead to, start mobilizing our own resources. And at the time, I was working at a job that was paying me, even with my co-founder, we are both, each of us was earning, I think, about $100 a month. And we decided that we would put aside $2. Each of us would put aside $2 every month, because we knew we needed, one of the inputs that we needed was money to be able to move, to travel, to go to training centers for the youth, to go and mobilize youth, to print out whatever we needed. So we decided that we would save $2. Each of us would save $2 and would each contribute these $2 every month. And we did this, and we were able to raise the resources that we needed to start at the time. And you can imagine an initiative. You, the change makers who are on this call, some of you are like, oh, how do I start? I first need to get a grant of $10,000 to start. My friend, you don't need to have $10,000 before you start. So when we started, using public transport, mobilizing young people and training them. And before we knew it, we continued to learn and grow this initiative. To date, as I talk right now, this organization is worth $1.5 million. And we are employing 35 full-time staff and over 200 volunteers who are paid a stipend every month. So we've grown from just saving, having resources at a tune of $4 per month to a tune of $1.5 million a year. So when I share this story, I want to tell you that once you're able to map out the roadmap, then you can never go wrong. So looking at the theory of change, it just tells you, it's like we said, it's a roadmap. It tells you the how. How will your organization achieve your intended goal? At that time, we're able to define the roadmap, and that roadmap has helped us move through and grow to where we are at. I would like to share and continue sharing the different steps that we're all supposed to look at as we think about the theory of change. And oftentimes people ask themselves the question, why the theory of change? Does it really matter? Can't I just do whatever I want to do without a theory of change? Well, you can try, but it's going to be hard. It's like you moving to Lagos from Abuja and you don't know which way to take. And you just wander around and then you're like, oh, maybe I'll reach Lagos, through a miracle. I'll just find myself in Lagos. So that can be very challenging, but you need a theory of change to have a clear vision for your journey, but also to be able to have a logical flow of activities that lead you to your end goal. As part of the theory of change, it's important that you're able to understand the objectives. So it really helps you clearly define what you want to achieve and why it matters. Second thing that is critical with a theory of change is helps you strategize effectively. If we did not have a theory of change, we wouldn't be able to grow to where we are, because once we developed that, we're able to have like a coherent plan, and we're also able to know that, okay, if we want to achieve goal X, then this is how we do it. We're able to also measure success and measure the progress. Remember, if you're moving a journey and you're moving again, I'll use the example of Abuja to Lagos, and you're moving, but you don't know, how you're going to track your progress. You don't know whether you've moved 10 kilometers, you're not tracking that, then you can't know, how much more you need to move to get to your end destination. So that is critical. When you have the theory of change, you're able to measure progress, adapt and learn. So along the journey, you're continuously assessing and just improving the strategies and improving your activities because of it you have. Then you're able to also demonstrate impact. You're able to show like how much impact you have created. Moving on, when we talk about a theory of change, to the change makers on this call, I want you to know these different parts, and they are critical. When you're talking about a theory of change, there are different parts, and we have inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, assumptions, and impact. So you have to be able to clearly define these different parts. I'll use the example of Wezesha Impact. When we're starting out, we defined and we said, okay, we need people who are going to train. We needed, at the time, we also needed computers that would use to design our presentations and use those presentations to train the young people. We needed funds to enable us move from one place to another for transportation, and many other things. And at the time, we're also able to define which activities we have to do. So as part of the theory of change, you have to be able to know that, okay, my goal is to improve livelihoods of young people, or increase the number of young people that go to school or keep in school. So what activities do I have to do? What are these things that I have to do, the actions that I have to do to be able to get there? So I use the example of Wezesha Impact. When we realized that, okay, we want to get more young people start their own businesses and engage in productive employment, one of the activities we came up with was, first of all, mobilizing the young people, and also defining which category of young people do we want to mobilize. Is it out of school? Is it school dropouts? Is it young people who have completed university? And for us, it was young people that had dropped out of school. So mobilizing school dropouts. And then second thing we had to do was connecting and building relationships and signing memorandums of understandings with the district leadership. So those are the examples of activities that we had. And looking at the outputs, it was, okay, if we are training young people, how many do we want to train? And we agreed initially our first group of training had 25 youth. No, it actually had eight youth. So for us, one of the outputs at the time was eight youth trained in entrepreneurship and work readiness. And when it came to outcomes, you always think about, once I've really defined the inputs, I've done the activity and have the outputs, what is that end goal? What's that outcome that I want to see in the short term and in the long term? For us, it was, the short term was these young people coming up with business plans. And in the long term was these 8 young people being able to start their own businesses. So 8 businesses started. And yeah, we said, okay, we'll work towards that. And in the assumptions, one of the assumptions that we had was, okay, once youth are trained in entrepreneurship and work readiness, then they have knowledge on how to start business. Then they have knowledge on how to find a job. So those are some of the assumptions. And when it came to the impact, our impact, we are really looking at improved livelihoods of young people. So in that story, I know that you've been able to understand the different parts. And I already shared this presentation, so you'll be able to access it. So as a change maker, you have to be able to define the inputs. What do you need? What activities or what actions you have to undertake? Once you do the actions, what will be the direct outputs? What will come out of that engagement or the actions? And then outcomes, what are you thinking about? So if once you've done everything, what is the short-term and the long-term changes that will occur as a result of your outputs? And then assumptions, these are things we're always thinking along the way, and you're thinking, okay, if I do this, it will equal to this, it will bring out this. And then the impact as well, being a clear, basically having more like a clear vision and mission that you want to achieve and work towards. I'm looking at the chat. Sam, thank you so much. One of the comments that you just shared is, I wish to know the strategies of how you demonstrate impact and tell the story. To whom we tell the story, which advice can you give us to tell the engaging story to our stakeholders so that they can be interested? What do you think using social media to tell the story of impact? Okay. Oh, and Kamara also mentioned that they're not able to hear me. I don't know. Are you able to hear me now? I hope. Success, maybe you can just send through a chat whether you are able to hear me. Okay. Oh, you can hear me? Okay, great. Okay. Before I proceed, I'll respond to the question that has just come through from Sam. Sam, one of the things that you have to get to terms with and that you have to always do is telling your story. When I was starting this, I shared with you my story, and people will always connect with your story. If you want people to connect with your vision and your work, the first thing they will always connect with is your story, is the why. Because every person will want to know why are you doing education and not health? Why this community and not the other community? Why are you focusing on girls and on children? So your story is usually what will connect you with one, whoever is listening to you and get them to connect with your work, but also it brings the fulfillment in your heart to know that, okay, this is why I do what I'm doing. So oftentimes, and to all the change makers here, a critical thing that you have to always do is understanding your story. I was reading a write-up recently about storytelling, and one of the things that I learned was that you have to know that whoever you're telling your story, they don't know. So make sure it's very clear, and make sure that as you're sharing it, it's basically able to bring out the entire side of like why you're doing what you're doing. If you're presenting to a panel, you're presenting to maybe judges, you're presenting to potential investors or potential partners, or even collaborators, they need to understand, why are you coming out to do this? So refining your story and talking about your story is a critical thing. I mean, when I get time, maybe in future, success, I'm happy to talk to the change makers here about storytelling and how you craft out a very good and inspiring story. But key thing to note is that your story, a story is basically the why. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? So those are things that you have to know. And when you have the story, it also helps so much to define the impact that you want to create. And once you're able to define the impact that you want to create, then you can easily define the roadmap, which is the theory of change. I will move on. There are critical pieces that you all need to understand as you create a theory of change. And these are very key if as we do whatever, as we create our theories of change. Critical thing is clearly defining your problem. So identify the problem and the issue that is at hand. Which stakeholders do you need? Number two is the stakeholder engagement. Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to connect with? Which kind of partner? I mean, you're doing health, but then you're thinking the stakeholders are the people that are working in the space of domestic violence. You should be able to connect that. Otherwise, it might be looked at as stakeholders that are not in your area of focus. So being able to clearly define your stakeholders and having a stakeholder engagement is critical. Defining the vision and long-term outcomes is key as well. So you being able to envision the ideal state you want to achieve comes in handy. And this really helps you to developing your theory of change. Then as part of that, you need to work backwards. Begin with a long-term outcome. So what is the end that you want to achieve? When you define that, and I've already hinted on this, when you define that, it makes it easy for you to be able to outline the steps towards achieving that. Identify intermediate outcomes, so define the outcomes that will lead to the long-term outcomes. I mean, that one I've also talked about. It is very, very important. And once you do that, the next thing you have to do is map the causal pathway. So what is the pathway? What is that logical flow of things that's basically going to lead you to achieving your outcome, your mission, your goal? You need to define the inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, and then assumptions, and finally, the impact you're looking to create. Inputs and resources is critical. We all have to be able to define that. Once you define these things, then you're able to actually put them into like a causal pathway. Define activities, know what you want to do in order to achieve the different outputs. And this should be clearly connected or aligned with your vision. Outputs is another critical piece. Define the tangible product services that result from your activities. When you do activity X, when you train youth in entrepreneurship, what is the outputs? 50 youth trained in entrepreneurship, that could be the output. So being able to define the outputs is also very important. Identify the indicators, and indicators, like all of us, you've seen people as they driving, and when they are turning, they put an indicator that shows that they are turning. So it's as simple as that. As you're moving this journey, what will show that you've gotten to level X or level E or level B? What are those marks that will show that you've actually reached this level. So those are the indicators. Be able to identify those indicators and define them before you start the journey. So that way, when you start the journey, you're able to see, okay, one of the indicators I was looking at is this, it's been achieved. And so I'm progressing towards achieving my goal. Assumptions and risks, identify any assumptions you're making about how change will occur. All of us always have to work with assumptions because you don't know what's going to happen, but you have an assumption of what would potentially happen. So having clarity on that is very important. I'll first pause at that and see if there are any questions. Okay, no questions so far, but feel free to type out your question in the chat and I'm able to check it out and respond. Okay. So with whatever I have shared, I wanted to just share with you like a snapshot of how our theory of change looks like. This is a real theory of change for Wezesha Impact. And you'll see that it's basically a breakdown of the different things that I've talked about. Inputs, for example, when you look at the input side, you see that there's money or funding, there's project staff, volunteers, instructors, business mentors, technical assistance from external consultants, materials. So these are the inputs. As a change maker, I know that you probably also are able to define the things that you need to input in order for you to start the journey of achieving the mission or the impact you want to create. You see the activities, different activities, sensitization for government and civil society leaders on the program. And as part of that activity, there's also another one of sensitization of vocational training centers administration. And you see that the outputs to that are as follows. Number one is the number of government and agency MOUs signed, and then number of vocational training centers, administrators sensitized. So you'll see the exact logical flow. When you're talking about an activity of sensitizing vocational training centers, administrators, then you're looking at an output of number of vocational training centers or administrators sensitized. And then when you look at the short-term outcomes and the long-term outcomes, you're looking at the percentage increase in enterprises, startup survival, and growth. And you'll see that there are these arrows that are pointing to these different boxes. So when I talk about percentage increase in enterprise, startup, and survival and growth, it is not only the signing of MOUs and administration engagement that leads to that, but it's a couple of all these inputs that are leading to that outcome. And you'll see that there's also the long term, which is highlighted here, the increase in youth employment and improvement in their livelihoods. And of course, we have assumptions down which have stakeholders are willing to participate and support the program, low turnover and high commitment by trained youth and associates. So it's all these different things. So this one gives you a practical example of how a theory of change would look like. Please do not focus on the complexity of the boxes, but focus on the content that is there, because it is the content that is very, very important. Okay, I have a question here from Al Hassan, and Al Hassan is saying that the resistance to change is innate. How does a young organization overcome such resistance? Well, this is critical because yes, there's a resistance to change. It happens, um, and it even starts with you, the change maker. Sometimes you think about an idea and you're crushing it yourself. Other times you're sharing your idea with somebody and they're crashing it down. But always go back to your story. Like why? Why are you even thinking about that? The why will always be the one that will help you to push forward. Your story will always speak volumes. But key thing is also that when we think about aspects around leadership, there has to be resilience. I mean, while you're being resisted, while people are not buying into your idea, resilience is a critical thing. I'll be honest with you, when we started with Zesha Impact, no one believed in that work. Like, we didn't have many people that believed in that. But over time, when we started demonstrating that this is actually something that is bringing a solution to youth unemployment, today government is signing memorandums of understanding with us. Recently, we just got a new partnership with the UN International Labour Organization, and another one from UNICEF. So resilience is very important. You being able to get to stick to your idea, have mentors around you will always help you. Okay. I'll move forward as I conclude. Okay, sorry, just trying to move. Okay, so this illustration just gives the flow of things. When we talk about the theory of change, it's the one that will guide in the program design. You get to define the key performance indicators. As part of the process, you always do data collection for the baseline to know where you're starting from. Implementation, monitoring, data collection is part of the process, and then the analysis of the progress. And with that said, I would like to just introduce this activity to all of you. And I know Success and team will be able to provide follow-up support and guidance on this. But this is an activity or an assessment for you to develop a theory of change for your program. So if each of you can just have this table, and as you get on that journey of starting your initiative, your enterprise, your social enterprise, I mean, can you clearly define and take time to define these different parts under the 6 steps that have been defined here? Number 1, the business or the problem you are solving. Can you define that? Number 2, what impact? And you'll see that it starts from the high level side as it goes down to the inputs. So that is usually also the flow of things as you're creating a theory of change. So because before you define your impact or before you define the problem you want to solve, you cannot literally know which inputs you need. So it starts from the side of what is the problem? What is the impact? What outcomes do I want to create? What outputs? What processes or what activities? Processes also means activities. And then what inputs? What do I need to make this happen? So I would like to ask that each of you just take some time to fill out this. And once you create this, it will be able to give you a very clear picture to your journey of becoming a change maker and, of course, launching your initiative in your community. If we had more time, I would give an opportunity to somebody to just maybe type out or share what they have come up with. But because of time, I'll hand this over to Success And I would also like to ask that each of you gets this template and be able to do your, like to fill out this stuff in your own free time. And then it will definitely help you practice creating a theory of change, but also clearly define your journey to creating change. Thank you, and over to you, Success.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solomon. Thank you very much for this amazing presentation. And I'm going to try to follow up with this activity to make sure that they respond to it in time. And because it's going to be part of your CBO plan at the end that you submit. So it's very important. And we have a question here. The question is, how do I test the authenticity or strength of my theory of change?
So that's a good question. As you're developing the theory of change, there are two things that you will always have to do. You will have ideas as an individual, but engaging with people who are in a similar space will always help you. And they will always help you test the authenticity of your theory of change. You do not just, you will not just sit on your desk and just create this, but oftentimes you have to talk to people, you have to do some kind of research. For example, if you are dealing with an issue of, bringing an end to malaria in your community, but you say, oh, maybe this one of the solutions is giving people money to buy mosquito nets. You have to do research. Like in the past, has anyone done that? If they've done that, what did they probably change from giving money to giving physical mosquito nets? So you have to, when you develop your theory of change, you have to test out the ideas by talking to people who are in a similar space. Your mentors is very critical, but also people that you highly trust within the community that have an understanding of the community that you want to serve. Yeah, but the critical piece is research, like research and research and research. And research also helps you continue learning. And on top of continuing to learn, it also helps you just be updated with what the real problem is and what the real solutions ideally would be. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So second question, okay, we have a comment from Caleb asking if it's possible to share your email. Yes, we can share Solomon's email. You can send him an email. I hope that's fine with you. Yeah, he has it here for you. Okay. So we have more questions. We have one from Sam, and Sam is asking, I want you to differentiate theory of change and goals and objective of the organization. It looks like it's the mission and vision of an organization. So what's like the difference between a mission statement and the theory of change for an organization, or goals and objectives?
Okay. So, like I said, in fact, I'll start by saying this very simply. Like, all of us have studied the things around sets, in mathematics when we did sets, and then we did subsets. So you find there's a big set, and then in that set there are smaller sets, and all sets that connect to the bigger set. And for me, there's what they call a set and the subset. So the mission and vision is part of the theory of change, or is a subset of the theory of change, while the theory of change or goals and objectives is not the mission and the vision. So the theory of change is the flow. So it is the logical flow of the different parts that are going to help you achieve the mission and the vision. And the theory of change, like I showed you here, I'll show you here. The theory of change, I'll just go here. When you look at the theory of change, it captures the inputs, the activities, the outputs, outcomes, assumptions, and impact. So it goes all the way up to the mission or the vision. So the mission or the vision ideally is the impact that you want to create. So the vision and the mission is part of the theory of change, but the theory of change is more than just the mission and the vision. It also combines the goals, the activities, like the inputs, the different things that you have to do to be able to achieve the goal. There's a question here that I see from Genesis. What was your journey in fully developing your theory of change? Were there any challenges you faced, and how did you address these challenges? When we're developing our theory of change, I think for us, the biggest challenge was just having clarity about the problem that we are trying to address. Because sometimes you have an idea of the challenge you want to address, but you really don't have a clear understanding of it. But what helped us overcome that was research, just learning more. Today, I'm able to share with you the statistics of the youth unemployment rates in my country because I did research. I got to really learn about it and know that, okay, out of all the unemployed people, 83% are youth. I mean, there's high school dropout rates. Only 4% make it past as high school into university. So you being able to, I mean, research is one of the things that will help you overcome some of those challenges. The other challenge that we got was not being able to clearly define our inputs. And we got stuck. One time we got stuck where we needed something, but it wasn't in our inputs. It had not been defined in the inputs. So what we did then was, okay, revisiting our theory of change and reworking it out. I would like to tell you at Genesis, together with all the change makers, that the theory of change is also a living document. Every time you're moving in this journey, you're learning, there is more insights that come to you. And so as part of that process, you're also reviewing and refining your theory of change. Like it's like the word says, it's a theory. It's a belief that when you do this, when you follow this journey, you're gonna see change. But that theory can be disapproved when you go into the actual implementation. But then the question that would come, do I need that theory? Yes, you need that theory because that way it's helping you clearly define your journey. Oh, it's the roadmap. So I see another question here from Genesis. Is theory of change the same as logical framework of an organization? Yes, there is a relationship between the logical framework and the theory of change. And key thing to note is that the logical framework will have some additional detail, but it is more or less similar to the theory of change.
Thank you so much.
And with the logical framework, oftentimes when people develop the theory of change, they break it down further to be able to capture the different monitoring and evaluation elements that are key. And these ones help in creating the M&E plan, which I mean, when we go into M&E, there's a lot that we could talk about, but yes, the logical framework would ideally be more detailed than the theory of change. But critical thinking to start with is the theory of change. Simple, but shows you a roadmap.
Simple, but shows you a roadmap. Thank you very much, Solomon. That was a very wonderful presentation, and it was really in-depth. Sylvester saying thank you too. You're welcome, Sylvester. So thank you everyone for joining in today. Solomon has been our presenter for like 3 years now, so he's very good with the timekeeping, and we can see that today as well. So you get to finish really early. I just want to reiterate the pitch. Please use every webinar, all the questions, all the activities to build your business, your CBO plan. And in advance of the pitch competition, it's going to be open. And I really want to see participants from this focus group also getting prizes at the end of this, academy. So in that state, I want to turn it over to Solomon to just give us like, a few words of advice before he finally leaves us.
Thank you, Success. I mean, to all of you that are change makers here, I want to say that the journey of becoming a change maker is an interesting one. It's not as easy, but regardless, we move. So I want to ask you, to ask each of you here that, when you start on the journey, please don't give up. Your communities have a lot of hope in you, and they're always, they may not tell you, but they're, when you do something great in your community, that's when you know that, oh, that's when you see your people saying, oh, we had a lot of hope in you. Thank you so much for helping us, by addressing this challenge. So the communities have a lot of hope in us. There is a whole, the journey of being a change maker sometimes can seem lonely, but there's a whole support system. If I have done it, you can do it. I have seen many World's Mountain Initiative scholars who have done really amazing stuff. If they have done it, you can do it. If you have this idea, you can roll it out. And the world has changed. Gone are the days when we used to think that it's only the kids that come from the wealthy families that have the resources to do this. Gone are the days where we used to think that it's always the PhD people that can do the best research. No, you can also do it. So I want to wish you the very best. Please, I look forward to connecting with those of you who are in Uganda. Feel free to reach out. Our office is in Rubaga, so it's in Kampala, Rubaga area. So if you happen to pass by, feel free to reach out. Feel free to drop me an email. I'm also happy to be a mentor to any of you. Feel free to reach out, basically. Yeah. God bless.
Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, everyone, for staying on the call. And with that said, I want to say have a good day. Next webinar is on Wednesday. Please join in in your number like you did today. All right, take care and bye, everyone.
Bye.